Hi. Oh, it's so cool with this link that you post ahead of time because there's already people here. Cool. I'm gonna close out some windows so this moves faster. There we go. Can you hear me okay? Hi, Bella. It's a hot one. It's fucking brutal out here right now. Yes, he is. And Ryan Donovan's in that video too. Thanks, guys. So yeah, we've got Dylan in there, Ryan Donovan, and then Taylor's in there. So today I actually wanted to talk, just do some more tour stories. That's really fun for me. And on the poll that I posted, a lot of you guys wanted to hear more stuff. So this particular tour story, I touched on it a little bit when I got into like the whole, there's a puppy under here and I don't want to squish her. I don't want to, wait, what was I saying? Oh, I already like talked a little bit about it when I was doing like the kind of like beginning of the Bomb Pop story. I mentioned a few funny things that happened on this tour. But I want to just talk about, there's a couple of things like that happened that like are just so weird and like nothing. Whoa, there's a crazy puppy under here. Nothing like super significant like the Mike Dirnt story I told last week, but just funny like little tidbits, like so many little tiny things that like stick out happen on that tour. And our friend Taylor, she's my best friend besides Polly, and Taylor came on that tour with us, and so Taylor's in that Dear Beer video too. So that's funny that you mentioned that. That's a good segue into this. So yeah, that tour, Neil was in the band. So this is this lineup. The Bomb Pops lineup was me and Polly, Dylan, and Neil, and then hello, and then Taylor came with us on tour. This is the same tour that I talked about with that guy Mike Spann that ended up like stealing everyone's money. And like our friend Leslie met us out on the tour after Fest, and she was sick to meet up with Mike Spann, and then she got spanned. So that's this is that time. But I kind of wanted to, I don't know, Taylor watches some of these sometimes, but I want to tell some stories that like are really funny about that. So this is again the tour where we booked it because like there was a few things that we knew that we like we didn't have a, I don't want to smush her. We didn't have a booking agent. So we just like booked this ourselves, but we also like just wanted to see if there's a few things that we could get on. So they were this NoFX tour with Anti-Flag and Old Man Markley. And then it was Riot Fest and the Fest. So we ended up getting on Riot Fest, and we ended up getting on a few shows with NoFX, Anti-Flag, and Old Man Markley, and then we just went to the Fest. We had played the Fest the year before. Anyway, so Taylor came with us. Let's see. Yeah, she came on the whole tour. Again, it was a long, grueling tour. We stayed at people's houses a lot. We slept in Walmart parking lots a lot. We didn't get very many hotel rooms at all. But yeah, so like one of the most fun things that happened I talked about this a little bit, but we sorry, I'm trying to think about. Yes, this is that we when we played Riot Fest, we played a show, like an after show with Dead to Me and Sundowner at the Cobra Lounge. But we also hung out there for a few days. It's like we kind of like planned this tour to go to different spots and like, oh, we're going to Riot Fest, like we'll play and then we'll like hang out, you know. But the night that we got into Chicago, we it was it was super fun. We didn't have a show, and we were had arranged to stay at Atlas Studio, and we happened to show up the day that the Menzingers had finished tracking on the Impossible Pass, so they had like wrapped up on the Impossible Pass. So there was a bit of a wrap up party situation there, and there was like they were done tracking. That was like their last day, and then also it was like the first. I don't know what if it was a Thursday before Riot Fest, or yeah, I think it was like a day before like Riot Fest started. So that was super cool for us. I mean, we had already known the Menzingers. We played with them a couple times in like San Diego, and they used to always stay at my house. Like once the first time we met them, actually it was exactly 10 years ago in April. I posted the flyer for it. That's when we met them. They stayed at my house, and I lived in one apartment. And then when I moved down to like a house by the beach with Polly and my cousin Kia, they stayed there a couple times. So we were friends with them. And but yeah, that was just super cool because like seeing that band and their like trajectory of success, and I remember they were at our the timeline. I think it must have been another time later in that year or the year after that they came by and stayed at our house again. Yeah. And they had like shown us the actual like songs before the album was released. So that was cool. But anyways, so that was a fun time. But it was just a party. I mean, I don't want to get into some of the party details here, but I remember that we got there, and then Toby Jake showed up from Red Scare, and Bottle Rocket had just gotten into town, but I think it was just Cody that showed up. And yeah, so Cody and Toby, the Menzingers, and us, and like that band Hands Like Bricks that had Mike Spann in it. They were there too. Wouldn't be surprised if Mike Spann stole something. Anyways, it was just a really fun time. Like I don't really get into details of why it was fun. It was just stupid and good time and a lot of partying. And yeah, so that was a really cool thing. Oh, and I have some pictures of this stuff. I think I posted a picture of it. I did post a picture of it when I was going through some of the photos, because we didn't like sleep. Like we just stayed up all night partying, and then we slept in the tracking room at the blasting room. I mean, at the blasting room, Atlas Studios. And we had a show the next night. And we were so tired, but we had to like get out of the studio because I don't know, they were doing something the next day or whatever. I don't know, we just had to leave. And we were just so haggard and so tired that we just went to the park. I don't know, I forget what the park is called. It's by the zoo in Chicago, but we just straight up took our sleeping bags and laid out in the park and slept there pretty much all day long until it was time to like go to the venue and get ready and play. And there's so many like little important stories here, but I like they're just too gossipy and like I'm not gonna tell them. But in my mind, like there was just some really funny things that happened there. But so this tour was so long, but one of the funniest she's stretching. One of the funniest stories was later in the tour when we got to New Orleans. Like we had never been to, I take that back. We had been to New Orleans before. I told you the show we played with Banner Pilot and Dopamines and the Pears, which were the Lollies. But we got to New Orleans. This was after Fest. And Taylor was really excited to like go to this one bar to get these drinks called, I think it's called like a Shark Attack or something in the French Quarter. And we were all there drinking at the bar, and Taylor went to the bathroom. And she told us this crazy story. I don't know how it happened in like so quickly, but she came back from the bathroom and was like, I walked in there and saw this woman, like a younger woman than with an older guy, in the bathroom. Just she was fully giving this guy a blowjob. She like made eye contact with these people and like then like walked out of the bathroom, and she came back to like find us. But in that moment, that woman came up to Paul, like they like came out of the bathroom and they found Taylor at the bar. And the lady was like, oh, honey, I'm sorry you had to see that. We're just like having a fun time. And Taylor was like, yeah, no worries. Whatever you guys are doing, you. And the lady like gave her a hug and kissed her on the cheek after Taylor like watched this woman like give this guy a blowjob. And Taylor's like me. I'm like I definitely have OCD and stuff. Like Taylor was like freaking out, and then Taylor had this like, she was like, and the kiss was so wet and soggy, and she was like wiping her face like on us. I don't know. It was just so funny. And then another really funny one with Taylor, and just because it's like the grossest thing. That tour was just gross, And another really gross thing that happened. We were never been to New York before, and we were playing in Brooklyn. Oh man, gosh, there were so many little tiny rad shows and like hangs on this tour. That show we played in Brooklyn was at this, I can't even tell you the name of it, but there was a bar up top and like a venue downstairs, and it was really small. And we were played with Mikey Erg, which I was like super excited for because I love the Ergs and I love Mikey Erg, but we had never like met him or anything. So, and there wasn't like really anyone there. This is again around Fest. Everyone's sworn to Fest. We had these like dinky little shows, but we played with Mikey Erg, and also this guy Greg Reckes, who later just like always see that dude around the world. 2 years ago, no, yeah, in 2018 when we were in Europe, we opened for Propagandhi, and Greg Reckes opened for us, and I was like, this is so weird. Like we met this guy in this Brooklyn basement, bar. But so that was cool. And the other funny thing about that is, so the tour started. We left from San Diego. I think one of our first shows was in Vegas. Actually, I think the first show was in Vegas at what the fuck? It's like called the Dive Bar. It's like outside of the Strip and outside of Fremont Street. But again, no one was there. It was us and Hands Like Bricks and like a few people. But there were these dudes there from Australia. They came to the show. And they came to America to like and rented a car and like kind of like had the same tour. Like they were kind of going the same route that we were because they were going to Fest. And they were just fucking party dudes. There was two of them. They were having a time. I think one of them was maybe sort of like a bachelor, like they were like one of them was getting married, so it was like his like bachelor trip or whatever. And so we basically played a show for those guys, and they were really, really fun. And when we got to New York, they were at that show with Mikey Erg and Greg Reckes. And we stayed at someone's house, which is so crazy because like all these when I tell these stories right now with you guys, like other stuff comes back. Like that thing about Greg Reckes just now. It's like, oh yeah, we like, where did I see Greg Reckes again? Because I can't for the life of me remember. We stayed at a guy's house in Brooklyn, and just a few months ago, oh, I remember. I re-met this guy when I was in, oh, she's stretching. When I was played acoustic on the Teenage Bottle Rocket tour with Mean Jeans and Clowns. And when we were in Minneapolis, this guy was there and he was like, oh yeah, you stayed at my house in Brooklyn. I was like, well, I remember that house. You know, I don't remember who you were, but it was the old original booking agent for Teenage Bottle Rocket. I think since that, like in the States, and I forget his name. Again, that just came to my mind right now. This is great. But I remember because it was really uncomfortable. It was like a hardwood floor, and I mean, usually in those situations, there's like a couch, and like someone gets a couch, or someone like, you know, whatever, sleeps in the van. But we all slept on this like hardwood floor. Like my back hurts thinking about it right now. But anyways, on the way to Brooklyn, Taylor had bought a sleeping bag at like a Target or something because she didn't have a sleeping bag. She had this brand new sleeping bag, used it one night on the floor of this guy's house in Brooklyn. And in the morning, we walked to get breakfast. And I remember we were walking down the street and like looking down at the ground. It was just like, you know, gross. And there was like a used condom and like, I don't know, a needle and like whatever. I just remember like walking and being like, oh, there's like a used condom, like don't step in it. And then we went back to the house and we grabbed our stuff to like walk back to the van. And we were walking and like we all had our stuff and our Taylor had a sleeping bag. And in the second, I was like, oh, I remember there's a condom, like don't step in the used condom. Right when I said that, like Taylor dropped her brand new sleeping bag and it unrolled and like landed on the used condom. And Taylor was like, I'm not using this sleeping bag again because it would have been harder to wash the sleeping bag. Like, where were we going to wash the sleeping bag? So she just, the next day, I don't know, the next time we had an opportunity, she returned it to Target and got to do it. I don't know why that's like, I guess like now telling that story, it's not that great, but it is really funny. I don't know, Taylor and I still talk about stuff like that happened on this tour a lot. Oh, another weird one. Like this is by far just like, maybe it's because it was one of the longest tours and maybe it's because like it was weirdly really shitty, but one step up from the last really shitty tour we did. So like there was like cooler things that happened. Like we were just so stoked to roll up to New York and play a show with Mikey Erg. Like we're like, this is so cool, you know, like no one's there at that show. So but then like oh my God, so many little weird things happened. And I do have footage of this stuff somewhere. I have to look for it. But we were it must have been somewhere in Virginia. I think we stayed at, well, I remember, hi. I remember, I don't even think we had a show in Virginia. We didn't, I remember, but when we went to a show that was so cool because it was like, again, touring to Fest on the East Coast, and it was all of these bands like together, it like kind of, you know, on the same route. And this one show that we went to, we're like, oh, we don't have a show. This is kind of like, we're on the way there too. It was in Richmond, and it was 2 shows that got combined. So the tour was, I don't remember who was on which tour, but like in the end, it was two tours that got combined, and it was the Menzingers, Broadway Calls, Dead to Me, Flatliners, and Banner Pilot, all on one show, and the Arteries, I believe. So I think it was like Banner Pilot. I think it was Banner Pilot and Dead to Me, and then I think the other tour was Menzingers, Flatliners, and Broadway Calls. Anyways, it was like the greatest show ever. And there were people there, but again, it was like it was a small fucking dive bar. The bands like played on the floor. And I remember there was like a window behind where the bands played, and it was just like all foggy, and yeah, that was a great time. Also, I remember our friend Shelby, who she looked just like Polly at the time. They had like the same haircut. They were the same, like, little blonde, cute girl, punk girl. Shelby was there, but Shelby was younger than Polly. And how did this work? Because Shelby had a fake ID. I don't know if Polly had a fake ID or where she would have gotten it. Anyways. But yeah, so that was a cool show. So anyways, I think that's where, like, anyways, we ended up staying with someone in Virginia, this couple. They were really nice, and they invited, like, you can stay at our house. And oh my God, we get to the house, and it's kind of like pack ratty. It's just amazing when you stay with that many random people. You're like, how different it is that people live. And I remember thinking, oh, these people are nice. Like, you can't like judge a person and how nice their house is going to be, and if you want to stay in it by just meeting them. Because I'll give you 2 examples. So there's this one. This couple was like super nice. They were like punk, but they just kind of like, yeah, you can stay at our house. We have like a big house, and there's an extra room, and we got like whatever. And we went to their house, and it just smells not great, because you could just tell that they're kind of like a bit hoardy. And I remember we had like some food to microwave, and just like their microwave just smelled so bad that you don't even want to like microwave food in it. You know, just like, I don't know, been used for 15 years and never cleaned. Anyways, we're like, okay, we're trying to scope it out, because at some points, if a place is like that, Polly and I are like, okay, we're sleeping in the van, you know. But also, Polly and I don't just like to just sleep in the van. It's sketchy too, depending on where you're at. It's like, what are we gonna do? I don't know. But we kind of like walked around. We're like, okay, yeah, you know. And at that point, also, like, not to be rude, like, these people are letting us stay at their house. I'm never saying like that they're not nice people, that's not an awesome gesture, but also you gotta have your standards. And so we're like, oh, there was the bathroom, like, you guys use this bathroom. The toilet doesn't work, so just like go in the shower. And we're like, okay, but like, what if you have to poop? And they're like, just shove it down the drain. Just like shove it down the drain. Paul and I are like, we're sleeping in the van, you know? It's like, just shove it down the drain, like your shit down the drain. Yeah, so, and then, I know. So that was like this couple that we were like, oh, it seems nice. And I remember after that, we were like, fuck, like, how do we know the waffle stomp fella? And then, So after that, when we were in like, where were we? God, South Carolina. No, oh my God, there's the show in South Carolina and the show in North Carolina. The show in South Carolina, I don't remember, like, it was actually at a venue, you know, like a nice venue, and they had bigger shows there, but I just don't think, like, no one really goes to South Carolina to tour on, like, no one really hits South Carolina. Anyways, we played there. There was, like, an okay show. There was people there. We played with some, like, metal band, and they were young. They were, like, in high school. And the drummer of the metal band, just like long-haired, kind of greasy-looking dude, scrawny. He was kind of like quiet, but he was like, "You guys can stay in my house." I'm like, "Oh, you live with your parents, you know?" And he's like, "Yeah, but like we don't really care, you know." And it's like, man, I was like, after that experience, you know, a few nights before, I was like, okay, like, what, sure, you know, but like, I did not have like high expectations for this at all. I mean, keep in mind, like, we're not looking to stay at fancy ass places. It's just like people that don't shove their shit down the drain, or you know, whatever. And I just remember being like, dude, really, we're at this dude's house with his parents, and like, so so we get there, and it's like the nicest house ever, like a gigantic, like, mansion style house. It was huge. And he was like, "You guys can all sleep in my room." And we're like, okay, you know, but his room was huge. It was like a half of like an upstairs bedroom, you know, and there was like a nice bathroom that we could all use and take showers in. There was even like I think there was one guest bedroom too that someone slept in. But in his bed, there was like in his bedroom, there was like another like bed. He had like a second bed in his room. And it was super nice. He had like metal posts. I don't know. It was just like a teenage dude's room, but the house was nice. And we're like, so your parents are here? He's like, yeah, but they don't care. And I mean, can you imagine like these people, they had this awesome house, and he just meets this group of 5 people that are like in their 20s, like that like are going to stay at your house. We've never met them. We came home at like, you know, like 1 or 2 in the morning. But in the morning, the mom and he had like little brother and a little sister, like little kids. And in the morning, the mom like had gotten us all donuts, and they made like fresh squeezed orange juice and had made some like bacon and eggs and stuff. And we're like, oh. I felt so bad because I was like just judging this kid, but like I can't, like, who does, like, what? They were so nice, and like they acted like we were like this kid's like best friend from, you know, I don't know, forever. They were super sweet though. So it just goes to show you never freaking know. I'm trying to think about what else went down on that tour. Oh, so the show in North Carolina was like the funniest. I mean, we showed up to this place, and when I say like no one's there at a show, I mean like back then there would be like 10 people there, right? That was like a no one show on that tour, you know? But then there were shows that there was like 30 people. And then there were shows that we played with like other bands that were doing stuff, and those shows were great. But this show we went to in North Carolina, that Mike Spann, the guy later that stole our shit, had booked, there was not one person there. It was a hookah lounge, and the guy was like, I think at one point somebody came in and like, anyways, the guy, we got there, we put our gear in there. We're like, it was just at that point too of this stupid tour. Maybe this was a few days before Fest, and we're just like, dude, we're not going to play, you know, but also it's like, we're here, we should do this, you know? So we just set up our gear and we kind of just ended up fucking around. I think we got drunk and we didn't really play anything, but there's this video of Polly rapping. Like, I don't know, they started to like play a drum beat and Mike's band was playing bass and Polly and Kyle, who is the other guy in Hands Like Bricks, started like rap battling and talking. I don't know, there's this really funny video of them doing that. But it was the end of the night, the guy, he was so weird. And of course we ended up staying at his house because it's like we had nowhere else to stay, but he was like, okay, well, I can pay you guys $2. You guys can have $1 and the other band can have $1. We're like, keep your $2. It's like almost more sad to get offered $2 than it is to like, it's way more sad. Like, it's by far way more sad to be offered $2 rather than like just not getting paid. So yeah, that was that one. I'm trying to like make my way across because like it was just little things like that the whole way. There was something else that I wanted to share with you guys. Well, first of all, when we got to Fest, like we didn't play that Fest, but it was so much fun. It was the only, no, not, well, this is the cool one. I was gonna say it was the only time we saw None More Black, but it wasn't because we ended up we got like an impromptu show after Fest with None More Black. So, I mean, that was like my favorite set of that Fest. We had never seen them. I think Icons had kind of recently come out. I don't know if you guys know that album, but I'm writing it here. I love every No More Black album, and I love Icons a whole lot. But we had never really seen them, and I just remember whatever the bigger venue at the Fest was at the time they played, and like they didn't do. There's a lot of, if you know that album, there's a lot of like whoa. There's like this really cool big sing-alongy like backup stuff in this album, and they didn't sing any of it live. Like there were no backups, but the whole entire crowd was like singing those woes, and it was like goosebumps the whole show. It was really, really cool. I think that's like one of my favorite shows that I've been to. And then we met Paul Delaney, who I'm still good friends with to this day. He's a character. But they were playing the show on Halloween night. So it was like the day after Fest in Orlando, Florida, at this bar. I have it on my wall. The Peacock Lounge. And here, I'll see if I can take this. Oh, I don't know if I can take it. I framed it. Yeah. It's this one because they didn't say that they were None More Black for whatever reason, because of the Fest, I guess. Like they couldn't like announce the show, so it was like a secret show. And at a small bar called the Peacock Lounge, and it's crazy because we played there on Halloween night, but the bar was a Halloween themed bar, or it was like a themed bar, but they just went all out on Halloween. Like they had like it looked like the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. They had just like the whole thing decked out in Halloween shit and like really cool Halloween props and stuff, and like smoky cauldron things, and it was us, and then Paul Delaney's cousin Sal, who we became good friends with. Like he lives in Vegas and he's a promoter there, and they're called The Core, and another band called Dig It Up. But like they called themselves CPM and the BADs, like so. But that was None More Black. And it's just cool. It's like on Halloween night. I took the flyer. I love it. It was such a fun time. And I lost my voice. I couldn't sing. Polly sang like most of my songs. I think I sang like 2 songs, but my voice was gone. I couldn't even talk. And that was probably from singing along the night before with None More Black and just being an asshole. There's a lot of inappropriate stories to tell as well, but I can't tell them here. Just at Fest that still think about to this day. And yeah, gosh, like I can't, like putting that all together too. Like I forgot about this show. Is so cool that it's like I framed it. What was the other one? See, I don't think we even played. I can't remember if we played this show or not. I don't think we did. Oh, here's once I told you about Polly, that like Mike Spann, how he stole all this shit. I don't think I told you guys though, like, so that all like unfolded like 2 days before Fest. We got to Fest, and then even his own band was like, no, you guys, like, you can't, that's not true. Mike would never do that. And then like the next day his band was like, oh yeah, Mike Spann, we just like dug into some other friends back home and he stole all this shit from A, B, and C. Like, and so Polly was like, if I see him, I'm going to kick his ass. I think maybe I did tell you this. I can't remember. But so we went to see the Holy Mess, their show at Fest. And sure enough, like Polly saw Mike Spann like in the front row singing along to this band. And those are the guys that were like, hey, what are you doing with this guy? He stole from us. He was just so delusional that he thought that those guys were still his friends. Polly saw him, and I remember she had like these rings. She had like a couple on this hand, a couple on this hand, and she put them all on like one hand and like stacked them up. And she went and she socked him in the back of the head, and then like socked him in the face. Started and he kicking him. She beat him. He was crying, and you know, mean to laugh, but it was just like I felt bad for the guy at that point. I was like, Polly was wailing on his ass in the show, like at a show, like in front of all these people who thought we were his friends, and she was like, I told you I was gonna kick his ass if I saw him. So yeah, Polly is called the living weapon for that reason. Yeah, and so then also we still had to tour back with that band, and Neil ended up playing bass for them, like playing bass for them and for us. I'm sure that there's like a few more like funny story. Like, I know there is. Oh well, just the like night that we met. Yeah, we met NoFX, but I think I told you about that too. It's like we met we met them in the one was in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and one was in Cleveland, Ohio. And then we went to another one like that in Pittsburgh that we weren't, no, in Philadelphia, that we weren't on the show, but we just like went to hang out. And that one I remember like so clearly. It was a great night. That was like the first, like Mike, we had like played with him a couple times, but by that time that Mike was like, he told us that he really enjoyed us. He was like, not necessarily your band, but like you guys are fun, you know, whatever. And he kind of was more or less like, I'm going to do something for your band, you know. And we're like, Polly started crying. And I remember that's like, because now we're super close with Annie and Johnny from Old Man Markley. But I remember at that time, like, Annie was so mean to us. And, like, we just, like, she was so mean. But we've talked about it now. Like, Annie's, like, so dear to me. And, like, they're the ones we sing about on the song House on Fire. Where it's, like, Johnny's with another band and he's losing oxygen. Whatever. I think I said it backwards. But, like, that's Johnny and Annie from Old Man Markley. And Annie was so mean to us. We like had a song. We're like, Annie is a bitch. I don't know. I won't sing it the rest of the song. We told her about it. Now she knows, and she was like, I was really mean to you guys then. And she's, to be fair, she was in a band with like 7 people, and she was like the band mom. And she was like, I was not having fun. I was like constantly wrangling all these fucking people, and you guys kept partying with our band. Like I remember this guy Joey Balls was in their band, and he is like brilliant, but he's also just like no control kind of guy. And we just kept being like hanging out with Joey Balls. And at one point, Annie was like, "You're not allowed to. Don't hang out with Joey Balls. Like, you just get him wasted. He's trying not to drink, you know, like he's a fucking mess." Like, she had her reasons to like not like us. But anyways, that's so funny because now like Johnny works with Fat Mike, and that they used to tour in this bus, and it was like red, yellow, and green. And when we met them, they were like living in this bus, and now it's parked at Mike's house. And it's just, I don't know, I always think about that whenever I go over there. Anyways, a lot of really, I guess the main thing is like specifically that fest, and like some of those shows, like the one where we met Mikey Erg, and like that guy from Australia, we're still friends with that dude. Like we still talk. I talk to him on Instagram and stuff. And then not friends with the people that the waffle stompers, but yeah, just like met a lot of really good people and friends on that tour that we're friends with to this day. And sometime I keep talking about having a guest on here. I just never like arrange it, but I think it'd be really fun for like Taylor to come on, because Taylor knows the ins and outs of those bands so well. I think that's why it's funny. Well, that's why it's funny that in that Dear Beer video, it's like we're doing like a fake band fight, but all of those people have seen that like our real fights go down. And I remember when we were doing that, they were like, Taylor and Dylan too, was like from the outside, not being in the band anymore, is just like laughing and like, it's so real. Like this like seems so real. So that's kind of funny that we got to have them in it. But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm sorry that wasn't like a one interesting story. It was more of just little bits of weirdness and goodness on that tour. Polly and I were talking about it the other day. She texted me something funny about that time, you know, and it was actually because she was texting with Austin, who was the bass player. This is the tour before this one, but she was like, "Oh my God, those memories are like," she's like, "I think I've blocked some of that stuff out." And she's like, they're so brutal to think about, like how we just like thought all of that was a good idea to even attempt to do, and about how funny it was. And I was like, yeah, we wouldn't be who we are without that. Oh my God, I miss touring so much. And don't miss touring like that, but like we do. Next time I want to talk about the first time we went to Europe. And it'll be like this, just like the bits and pieces. And it's hard for me to like really dive into that because we fought a lot. Like, I mean, no physical fights, but really brutal, like fighting. And like, we've gotten past all of that, but man, there's a couple times where it's like, oh yeah, we're not gonna be in a band. Fuck this. Fuck you. Not doing this anymore. And like Polly and I too, you know, so like I would love to talk about that Europe tour because it was so fun, but like we had some brutal nights where it was just like, fuck you, like this isn't happening, like all of us against like each other almost, you know. But that's what it, like, I don't know, I think you like we got there and we came back from it, and like now we know how to do it. And like I don't know what, I think it's just a bit of a testament to being like how badly we all individually wanted to do it. You know, like getting to that point would be like me, Polly, Neil, and Josh, who the Bomb Pops are now, because we've had blowouts. Like even on the last tour that we did in Europe, not the last tour, but the last one in Europe, not one single fight, like crazy blowout thing. And then until the very last day, and it was like, why do we have to end this tour like this? Like we just had the best tour ever, you know, but it just happens. A lot of it is just drinking. And that's why, no, there's something in my teeth. Oh, it's a bean. I'm going to re-eat it. Leftover Del Taco for breakfast. So, anyways, I don't want it to get heavy, but like, it's so much fun. And it's like these experiences, all this stuff. Like when I think, even when I mentioned those, like we had some blowout moments on that tour I just mentioned now, but it's like, it's funny. We can all laugh about it now, you know? And that's why it was like important. Like we put that clip in the record of Josh having his like that fight, and we're like fighting with Josh. It's just, that was the only one we happened to have recorded, you know? It's like, if we had recorded every time that we had a blowout, like we would have a full-on album of that shit. So yes, I will share some of the drama, and just know that it's not like I'm telling my side, and I will tell, like I will honestly, like I know I probably was mad, or like Josh was mad at me. Like I can totally own up to it. It's just not easy, and I'm like, everyone annoys each other, you know. But I would like to say, hey, we were really getting ahead there, and like then everything stopped. It's like, you know, Polly being sober had such a like an impact on the whole band, you know. Like I didn't drink on the last tour we did was with Mass Intruder, and I drank. I just kind of wanted in solidarity to do that with her. Like also, I barely drank on that Punk in Drublic tour in Europe. I mean, I drank, but like I just never want to be hungover again, because even if you're playing late at night the next night, that hangover stays, and it's the worst feeling to get up on stage like jittery and hungover. And it's not worth it. And so Polly being sober, I'm like, yeah, that's great. I don't need to drink. You know, I told her I'm going to get drunk in Chicago and Minneapolis, and like those, but like I picked strategically like cities where I was like, oh, this is going to be a time I'm going to do that. And she was like, you don't have to not drink. Like, this is my thing. I'm like, no, I want to do it to be with you. Like, but like to be helpful to you, but it's so helpful to me. I don't need to be doing that. And like, honestly, up the last tour, we had so much fun together, like laughing nonstop all the time. And that's what it's all about. And then Neil and Josh still, like, they can go out and get drunk and be stupid together and come back. But honestly, Polly and I just look at them and we're like, aren't you glad that we don't feel like that this morning, you know? But whatever, they can handle it and they're fine. Anyways, I didn't want it to seem like I'm talking shit on my band being like fighting all the time, but that I think any band does. And I think maybe because Polly and I are so close, like we're open, and it's like we're open to talking about it. It's like that's why we made that video, Dear Beer, you know? Oh yeah, the hangovers are, I can't believe sometimes like I drink and like not even fully going for it, and like I wake up and I'm like, how did I used to get like go out for a night and then work at the like breakfast diner at 9 a.m. like hung over and shit and just like work through it. But as you get older, it's just not. No. Oh, like it gives me anxiety now thinking about it. Never want to be hungover ever again. So doesn't mean I don't like want to drink. I just don't want to get to that point. So there we go. It still happens to the best of us. Okay, so next week, tour stories. I also want to dive into some records that I would really like to talk about. Break down some songs that I really like maybe one song, a chat, because there's just some songs that have been like extremely influential to me, and I would love to break them down and that's an exercise for me that I would like to like discuss. I could start with some, I know I started with some songs, like there's a playlist I did about on songs that like influenced me on Death in Venice Beach. So I could start with some of those songs and like actually like just go through them, like all the reasons why. And if you're into that, I think that you guys said you were into that, like on the poll. And then, yeah, I really would like to do that. That just takes me preparing, but that would be great fun for me. And then I love the new Taylor Swift record so much. I don't know if any of you are too punk for that, but it's so good. So like stuff like that, but I'm not gonna talk about that. I'd rather dive into like songs specifically that are influential, have been influential to me, or like inspired me to do something. So, okay, cool. Thank you all for being here. It was so weird. I went to look back at that poll a few days ago and I couldn't see it, like it wasn't on the page, but then it was there today. I don't know, but do you want to see Saloon? Saloon, wake up! Wake up, come here. Stretch it out. Okay, he's just too big. He's so big. That's okay. You should still give it a try. Look at her. Sleepy brown-eyed girl. I just posted another. Oh, I'll post it on the page too. We did another training video with Sean. So, yeah. She's a chunk and a half. She is. Oh my God, Bella. Love you. Love you. Love you. You just chime in with waffle stomper, chunk and a half. So good. Okay, guys, have a great week. Next week is the live chat and the performance. So, okay, thank you all for sticking around. I'm happy that I've got like a schedule. Even today, like yesterday, I was like, oh yeah, and then trying to think of which tour stories I wanted to talk about. And then this morning, I slept until 10, and I was like, oh, I'm like groggy. I just liked the schedule of this, and now I'm gonna get to work. Okay, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. End.